Hello, WPC friends and family. We're back again with another installment of What's in the Kitchen. So today we're going to be making pizza sauce and pizza dough from scratch. So we're going to start with the pizza sauce, and we're using exactly what we had in our cabinet, one small can of tomato sauce, and we're going to add things to it that kind of bring up that flavor and give us the flavors that we like. At my house, we like garlic, parsley, and we're going to use a little bit of Italian seasoning. But before that, we're just going to add the basics. I'm going to put in a little bit of salt, just a pinch, so it brings out the flavor. And sometimes with canned tomato sauce, you get that canned taste. So we want to eliminate that with the salt and with a little bit of pepper and a little bit of sugar. Let me go over here and get a little pinch of that to help bring up that flavor. Sprinkle it in just like the salt. We're going to add our garlic. Now, how do you get that old pesky skin off the garlic? Well, if it doesn't peel off, you take the flat side of your knife, blade out, on top of your garlic, give it a smash, and that peeling comes right off. Okay, so we're going to use 2 cloves of garlic because we are garlic people. Same thing, blade out. Remember, blade out. And that peeling is going to come right off of there. And we're going to use a garlic press. The garlic press allows that garlic to be incorporated into your sauce a little bit better. And what I did there is cut off those tips. I'll use a garlic press. Press that stuff right out of there. Shave it off with your knife. And you want to take those remnants out of your press before you proceed. Let's do it again. That off of there. Take that out. And we're going to put that in the sink. I'm going to mix this up. Now we are thin sauce people, so this sauce looks like it's a little bit runny. We don't like to have a whole lot on our pizza. And you decide what you like in your household. Let's add a little bit of that Italian seasoning. And we're going to set it to the side, and it's going to give it a chance to kind of marry and all those flavors come out. Give it a little bit of a taste. Use just a tad bit more salt and a little bit more sugar, and I'll do that in just a little bit. So I'm going to put that to the side, and I'm going to move right on to my pizza dough. Pizza dough is made with your AP flour or all-purpose flour, water, instant yeast, sugar, salt, and all of these recipes are going to be in the next newsletter. So if you don't get all your ingredients here, if you don't get them written down, you can get them in the newsletter. Let's put that over here. Things out of our way. Okay, to start, you're going to take 1 cup of warm water, between 105 and 120. You want it to be nice and warm to activate your rapid rise yeast. You want your dough to rise quickly, but you don't want it to rise up like a yeast roll that we love, that gets really big and puffy. You want it to rise gently for your pizza dough. This concoction has to get frothy, and what that means is that yeast is going to be activated and it's going to eat sugar, 1 teaspoon of sugar. Yeast is a living organism, and it wants to eat sugar in order to activate and rise. We don't want the water to be too hot because it will kill your yeast. It gets too hot, your yeast is like, I'm not working today. So we're going to pour 1 package of yeast in that warm water, along with 1 teaspoon of sugar. Okay, we're going to leave this here for a minute or two and let that get frothy. Okay, so I forgot to put my parsley in my sauce, and I wanted you to see how to get this parsley going. Just ball it up, really doesn't matter. And you always want to keep the tip of your knife down and your fingers back. Trust me, I've cut the tip off of a finger and a nail before. So you don't want that. Once you get it to this stage, then you just kind of gather everything back, hold your tip down, and run your knife through it. You want a rough chop. You don't need a real fine chop on parsley that's going in a sauce. So I've got that chopped, and you notice I chopped stems as well. Stems have a lot of flavor. So that's what we're going for. So put that in the sauce, and we're going to move straight into the dough. So our dough, again, I told you, all-purpose flour. You measure out 3½ cups to start, but the first 2 measurements that you put in your dough are 1½ cups of flour and 1 teaspoon of salt. Okay, gonna mix that together, kind of incorporate that salt, and then you're gonna add in your frothy yeast mixture. You can see those little bubbles, that little foamy stuff on top. That's what you're looking for. And you're going to pour it into that 1½ cups of flour. Now what we're doing here is incorporating that yeast throughout the flour as it turns into a dough. I'm going to mix that up just a little bit more with my little whisk here. You're just going to mix it in because you've got another cup of flour to mix in, so it's all going to get incorporated. As you notice, this dough is very wet. And if you know anything about pizza dough, it is a very dry dough. Okay? So we're going to put in another cup of flour. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to guesstimate. I'm going to use about half of this. This is a 2-cup measure. I'm going to put in another cup. And we're looking for this dough to pull away from the sides of the bowl. Once it pulls away from the sides of the bowl and all the dough is incorporated, you want to add that last cup. Now that last cup is going to get tough. So you might have to ditch your spoon and put your fingers in. What we're doing at this point is we are incorporating our yeast throughout the dough, and we're developing gluten. What is gluten? Gluten is the protein in flour. And we need the gluten to make our dough stretchy. When you roll out your dough and it rolls back to you, that's the gluten at work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear off my spoon because I want all of my product. And I'm going to add that last cup of flour. With that, we're going to do something that's called kneading, K-N-E-A-D. And that's when you're manipulating your dough, rolling it, pulling it this way, that way, and you are developing that gluten. So what I'm going to do is put this here, put a little bit on my surface, that, and I'm going to put the rest on my dough. I don't know about you, but I like a good, crispy, yet doughy pizza crust. So this is kneading. developing gluten, and incorporating the rest of my flour. Now, if I get to a point where this dough is just not manageable, then I'm going to stop. If I don't get all my flour in there, it's going to be just fine. Some recipes will call for 2.5 cups of flour. Some recipes like this one called for 3.5 cups of flour. I've got about 1/2 cup left there. Let's see what I can do. If you notice, I'm using the heel of my hand, and that is what you need for a good knead. Also, when you're kneading, you are developing that yeast, incorporating it in your dough so that it will rise. Now, when is it going to rise? Right here in a minute. I'm going to discard my flour. I don't think I'm going to need that anymore. Let's put it off to the side there, my little pile. And you see how my dough is kind of cracking as I move it? That means my gluten and my yeast are developed. So this is going to have to sit for 10 minutes. That's a quick rise, about 10 minutes. If it were a the other yeast, it would do a rise and a punch down and a rise. So we're going to put it in another bowl. Got a little bit of olive oil in the bottom. And we're going to roll that dough around that olive oil so that as it rises, it does not stick to my bowl. Put it just like that. I'm going to put a towel over it. We're going to let this sit for about 10 minutes. And ideally, when we come back, that dough is going to have just about doubled in size. Okay, so we'll see in about 10 minutes. All right, it's been about 10 minutes and I was mistaken. This dough is not going to double. It's going to kind of look the way you put it on under the towel, but you want to put your finger in and you want it to slowly come back out just a little bit. Okay, so that dough has had time to rest and the yeast has had time to do its work. So what we're going to do is take that remaining flour, sprinkle a little bit out on your surface, and it doesn't matter, countertop, cutting board, you may have a pizza board at home, whatever. And I'm going to take my bench scraper and I'm going to cut this particular dough in half because we're going to make 2 different kinds of pizza. I have also put this in the freezer and the refrigerator to use later. The one thing you have to keep in mind is if you do that, it's just not going to rise as high when you put it in the oven. Okay, so for this pizza, we're going to do a deep dish crust. And I'm going to kind of use my fingers and hands to mash that out a little bit. And then I'm going to use a rolling pin. Now I want to use this rolling pin so that I don't have really, really thick dough. It's not a bad looking dough. I'm going to put a little bit on my rolling pin. And I'm going to roll one way and roll back. Roll one way and roll back. Out, 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 out. Get it kind of sort of in the shape of the pan that you're going to be putting it in. This is actually going in a round pan. So it's not going to be round, but it'll be wide enough to go in that pan. And it really looks like it's, I can stretch it a little bit. Kind of get it going in the direction I want it to go. I'm going to put it in my pan. It's just a round cake pan. And I put a little bit of pan spray in it. And I'm going to stick that down in there. And push it down in there good. Now if you want to double over your dough, you can. I'm just going to cut that dough around the side. I'm just going to cut it off with my knife and go to dressing my pizza. Now, these pizzas are not going to have any meat on them because we don't have any. So it's not in the refrigerator. But if you've got some pepperoni, hamburger, bacon, whatever you want to put on it, it's what you put on your pizza. Okay? We're going to add in some of our homemade tomato sauce. Not a lot in our household. I'm going to spread that out a little bit. This is just basically going to be a cheese pizza. Some of that sauce back up in there. I'm going to start out with a little bit of Parmesan. Okay, just going to sprinkle that on. Then let's put on a little bit of mozzarella. Now, mozzarella is traditionally made from buffalo milk, but this, of course, is not buffalo milk. It is cow's milk, and that's okay. You can use mozzarella in any shape or form, whatever you want to do. They have little balls. I've even used string cheese because I didn't have mozzarella before. I've used the string cheese, and we're just going to cut it and disperse it on pizza. However you want to do it, however cheesy you want. This is your creation. Okay, that. And then I'm going to add a little shredded Parmesan. Just to give it a nice cheesy flavor. Set that to the side. And then we're going to do our other pizza, which is a pizza Margherita. What is a pizza Margherita? No red sauce. It's just going to be olive oil, a little pesto, some basil leaves, and tomato. I'm going to stretch this puppy out. Roll it out as thin or as thick as you like. And I'm just going to put it on a pizza stone. It's just one of those Pampered Chef stones that stays in my oven. So it has earned a nice char and patina. So that's what I'm going to put this pizza on. Put it there. Now you notice I didn't put anything on that stone because you're not supposed to, once it's been seasoned, you don't want to add anything to it. So we're going to put some olive oil here. And I'm just going to spread that out with my fingers. And personally, I don't mind jarred pesto. My daughter's not a fan. But we're going to put a little jarred pesto on her to give it a little bit of flavor. Just a little bit. What is pesto? Pesto is basil leaves, olive oil, Parmesan cheese, and pine nuts. All mixed together. And then I have used almonds for homemade pesto. So that's that. We're going to add some basil leaves. I just pulled these out of my garden, and they're really not as mature as I would like. And we're going to do a chiffonade. That's a thin slice of anything. And you end up with little ribbons, little strips. It's called a chiffonade. Sprinkle that on. Great basil, fresh basil flavor. Love it. And then we're going to add some thinly sliced tomatoes. Now, this looks like a vine-ripe tomato. It is not. I bought it at the grocery store. But we're going to put a really thin slice on that. Oops. Okay. That'll be ready. I'm going to put this parm on first. Ooh, don't want those big clumps. Tell you what, let's just do this. Okay. We're going to put our tomato on. And yes, it still has the skin on. If you don't digest the skin well or chew the skin well, whatever, you can take the skin off the tomato. It's whatever you like, once again. And then the icing on the cake is going to be our fresh mozzarella. And this is kind of thick, so I'm going to dot that on there. This is real easy to manipulate and shape because it is fresh. And when it's fresh, it comes in the liquid. Has the liquid in it. Now I like a lot of cheese on my pizza, so we're going to use that. Okay. Your oven should be set to about 400 degrees. So you know at 400 degrees, it's going to take it's not going to take a long time to cook. You want your crust to get a little golden brown, just like you would in any other, when you cook any other type of pizza. You want your cheese to be bubbly. And I'm going to add a little bit more of this parm on top of that. Give me a little flavor on my tomatoes. We've got spinach. Sometimes I do add spinach to my pizza like that. But we're going to put these in the oven. We're going to keep our eyes out on them. And it's probably going to be 10 to 15 minutes before they're ready to pull out. So we'll see you in about 10 to 15 minutes. All right. So our pizza is out of the oven. And guess what we're going to call this? Flatbread pizza. Evidently something happened with my yeast. I don't know if my water wasn't hot enough or was too hot. My suspicion is that it was not hot enough. So if you have a food thermometer at home, go ahead and pull that thermometer out and use it. And you want your water to be between 105 and 115. I really don't think my water was hot enough. That doesn't mean we can't eat it. It actually looks pretty good. So we are going to use our pizza wheel and we're going to cut this up and have a taste. The crust is just going to be kind of more like a thin crust. It's going to be kind of crispy. I wish you good luck and make lots and lots of pizza and enjoy your time together. Buon appetito!